Next up, as exams begin across Namibia, many learners are feeling uncertain about their future career paths and overall career choices. I'm joined virtually by educational psychologist Dr. Jurgen Hoffman to explore how students can make informed career decisions, manage exam pressure, and stay confident about what their future brings, even as they're still figuring it out. Good morning, Dr. Jurgen.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for joining us on Good Morning Namibia.
It is my pleasure.
Now, why is career planning especially important during exam season, and how does it impact learner motivation?
I think at this point in time, learners are already thinking about their future. So career planning provides a certain direction in terms of where they intend to go. And the exam season naturally creates an opportunity for reflection. And sitting behind books and trying now to negotiate that kind of hurdles that are presented here, there's often the question, where am I going? What I'm working towards? And under that circumstances, having some kind of idea of where I go will make the how I get there a little bit easier. It's also knowing you're studying, knowing that you're studying for something meaningful increases the level of motivation, so that makes that you are a little bit more focused on what you are doing. And exams feel less like pressure and more like a step towards a goal. So it's not a means in itself, but a basically transition to something that actually benefits from what I'm doing now. So the message is, even if the learners are unsure about their careers at this point, exploring possibilities in that direction. So what can I do? What options are there? What steps can I basically do? Gives a sense of control rather than fear, which is often the case. So the key takeaway basically under that circumstances is that career planning isn't about having all the answers at this point, but it's about having a direction. And that direction reduces anxiety that often accompanies the examination preparations.
Now, Doctor, speaking about fears and in your discussions with learners, what are some of the common misconceptions or fears that you've heard learners speaking about?
I think there are several. So if we just try to distill the most important ones, then one of the questions that comes up is, I need to choose the perfect career immediately. That is always the kind of mindset that is provoking fear. So if I don't get it right, there is nothing. But that's actually not true, because careers evolve over time. And many of those who are in careers have not ended up there straight away. So that is basically a change over time that brings them into the position or into that career where they really feel comfortable. Then a second one is the performance pressure. Like my marks define my future. So if I don't get it right now, I basically don't have a future. And I think one should be a little bit more flexible on that kind of perspective. Marks may open doors, but they don't close all of them if they are not in line with that. There are other aspects that remain much more important than just plain marks, and these are virtues like passion, persistence, and adaptability, which are very much more important in getting somewhere in life than just the plain marks. And then the first one that I would like to touch on is the notion I must follow a popular or stable career, or one kind of stereotypical career that is known to all of us. We can say the engineer, the doctor, the pharmacist, that kind of pretty much known careers which people feel they need to oblige to follow. However, in reality, the most successful people in careers match their strength to the opportunities that are presented themselves, and that's basically a matter of keeping your eyes open when they come, and they are not necessarily being successful by just following certain trends. So I think what we can basically put the learners, or assure learners basically, is that career is not a fixed point. It's rather a journey. You have to carry, you have to cover certain terrain before you actually arrive. So a mark in itself is not defining that in the end.
Indeed, a lot of choices to make, especially for learners, where you have to strike that balance between following your passion, pleasing your parents who are also possibly paying for your fees and so forth, but just really finding that balance. Now, Doctor, how can parents and teachers support learners to feel who are feeling overwhelmed and unsure about their future? So basically that parental and support from the school as well.
Yeah, I think what typically happens is that there's a lot of pressure that is put forward. So what are you going to do? What do you want to do? And as I said, there's an evolving process, and there needs to be a certain kind of level of readability. You need to be ready to do certain choices. And if there's pressure on the learners under that circumstances, it will make it very difficult for them. So I think instead of putting pressure on a learner, it's more important to create a safe space for conversation, and just asking more guiding questions like, what do you enjoy? What do you think your strengths are? There's more than just the salary behind that. So that is a kind of conversation that actually helps reflecting, and in a certain way then also shows certain perspectives that might then basically evolve out of that. So the focus should be more on the strength of the learner rather than the marks alone. That's another point, that the pressure is applied. If you don't get that marks, you get nowhere. So as we said before, that's not necessarily true. So we just need to discover also our natural strengths. And there are a lot of learners who don't perform well in academics, but they have a normal skill base. And just by linking it to academic pressure, you will actually cut them down, you will devaluate their efforts, or you will actually depreciate also their self-concept in what they actually can do. So that should be the focus primarily, not just on what I can do in a school situation. And then what we can also do is encourage curiosity. So just trying to facilitate certain aspects like job shadowing, where learners can basically investigate what is possible, just wider than what the typical narrative goes. Then volunteering, just try to work a little bit in certain fields, just get a certain kind of information about what the career situation is all about. Talking to professionals, so that opens my perspective to more options that are available, and also a lot of those that are not necessarily academic options. And that also helps to settle down. And then I think we should also remind the learners that uncertainty is normal in this phase of life. So it is not that they are basically completely out of the field. So most people feel like that. And what matters is taking the next small step in trying to get more knowledge. That is more important than worrying about whether I'm now, some odd one out here in this equation. So the support essentially is not about pushing, but more about guidance to a certain starting point, and once there is this kind of investigation option available, then things will start falling in place much more readily than just pushing the learner.
Thank you, Doctor. And really just delving into the practical steps that one can take to get exposure, from job shadowing to really getting those internships, to say you don't have to wait until you're done with your school to figure out what you want to do, but really take those practical steps. Now, what advice would you give to learners that feel pressured to choose a career path that doesn't match their interests? The parents are saying, I'm paying, you must do this, yet the child feels, this is not quite my thing. How do you advise? What would your advice be there?
Okay, I think we can maybe just step a little bit away from just the subject matters and the specific exam-related environment here.
Yes. Yes.
But what very much helps is if learners basically draft a small list in terms of the preferences and activities that basically energize them, where they feel comfortable with. That can be subjects, but it can also be things that they are doing that they find interesting, that they find invigorating. And based on that kind of journaling, that kind of jotting down the certain kind of indicators, will later lead to a certain pattern which can be analyzed, and basically where there's some kind of movement possible out of that pattern. Then fortunately, we have a lot of career kind of related information on the internet as well that ties in with the career informations in terms of career quizzes that are there. There are also interest inventories that one can look for. But they should not be treated as a final answer. It's just a matter of actually adding to what I already have just established from my own observation about myself in order to verify the information a little bit. Then what also helps is if they basically talk to people about certain fields. So we have never one career that is possible or what we can do. There are probably 10 different ones. And if you can list a couple of them and have some talks about these specific careers or these fields of interest with persons who actually perform them, about 10 minutes or so, that we can just fill in what the hidden parts are, which we don't necessarily see, so that we can just round off our picture of that particular kind of career that we have set out as a possibility. Then what we can also do is, while we studying subjects, we can also then notice in terms of what specifics of those subject preparations or exam preparations we enjoy. So usually there are certain fields or certain kind of activities involved. Some of them require research. Some of the subjects require problem solving. Some involve creativity. Some involve communication. Some involve personal interactions. So these are clues also to determine my own strengths. So where do I excel? What do I find more appealing? Which might then also flow into that list. And so the key word here, or the key takeaway, is that exploration of these factors doesn't need to be big, but it should be consistent. So doing a little bit over time will then also help me to get a much better degree of self-knowledge, which is one of the key cornerstones for a successful career choice.
Now, Doctor, as we wrap up, what advice would you give to learners that have not been performing well? They are anxious, they're getting into this exam season. Is there a chance of them being successful in the future?
Yes, I think definitely. I think a disappointing exam result is not translated into a disappointing life. There's a lot of things that we can still do, especially Namibia's economy is changing, so we are not so much more, the formal economy is a little bit shrinking, but there are a lot of possibilities within the informal sector as well. And these activities require skills, they require creativity, they require resilience, and they require adaptability, and these are virtues that every person has. So just by trying to link those to career-related activities will definitely provide options that are not necessarily available at face value, but we can basically utilize that to generate something that will grow into something bigger. So there are always different pathways which we can also do when we want to have a formal kind of training, like there are bridging courses. There are also the possibilities on improving the results next year and fill the gap in between with some essential skill courses like in marketing or in accounting. These are skills that we definitely need for more entrepreneurial activities. So while waiting for the next opportunity, we can fill our time with that. There's also the focus on vocational training. Definitely when we don't get the academic stuff, which holds a lot of career future possibilities, we can also utilize the time in terms of internships, and we can also expand our skills and knowledge in entrepreneurship during that time. And then I think we must also see that many successful entrepreneurs or adults that started, they were not successful immediately, so they were not necessarily the best learners and the best scholars, but they built the path along the way, so they kept open their eyes and their mind for different options, and they basically succeeded in doing that. So one result does not define your destiny. Your choices, your effort, and your character define it. So these are the most important things. So it's not that one single thing. Now, I think a closing word, you don't need certainty to move forward. You only need curiosity, willingness, and the courage to take the next step. Namibia needs young people who are adaptable, creative, and brave. So this is not a time for fear, but for exploration. I think that would basically wrap it up.
Thank you so much for your time, Doctor.